Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Monday, April 21st, 2025. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today live or through the archives as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the two words that say Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of the book contains a narrative description and explanation of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 20 years now to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to be able to turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click the link, download it, print it off, copy it as often as you'd like, and use it over and over again absolutely free. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words HeartLand Aramaic Forgiveness. If you choose to do that before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet. It contains an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and it contains a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. We hope people do all of that soon and often, primarily because it tends to improve the quality of people's lives the more they actively apply these tools in their lives, and secondarily because it tends to prompt comments, questions, answers, and testimonials. If you have any of those to share with us, we'd appreciate you doing so. You can email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, and/or you can email Jeanie at jeanie@whyagain.org. That's whyagain.org. And if we get a question or a comment from you, we'll address it on the internet show. And then as time allows, send you a notification about what day and time that occurred, so you can listen back to the archives for your feedback or input. If you're listening to us on the internet at live.needle.com/mindshiftersradio, we're glad you're here. We appreciate you spending time with us. However, from that perspective, you can't type in a comment or talk to us voice to voice. If you'd like to do that, you need to download the Needle app. It's NEDL from your app store. It's an AI tuner for live radio, and if you download it, open it, log in, answer a few questions, it will give you the option to type a comment and/or tap the phone icon and talk to us voice to voice. And we greatly appreciate whenever anybody emails or calls or types a comment, because it makes it infinitely easier for us to live into our intention with this work. The intention we have with this work is to be a service, and that is just beyond words easier to do when we know how these things are landing for you. So please feel free to chime in and let us know what's most beneficial for you in what we're doing, whether it's the reading different books with commentary, or it's the questions that people call in with, or it's a worksheet that we might support you in doing to help you change whatever's going on inside your mind-body energy system that might be generating a negative emotional state. The core of this work is our understanding that I'm the one that creates every emotional experience I have. And it's in the process of recognizing that that happens and then learning tools like the ones Michael and Jeanie Ryce offer and learning how to apply them that I'm able to build or construct a life that is far more pleasant, far more preferable than the one that happens when I live my life believing that my emotions are caused by people and things outside of me. And even though that's what our culture teaches, and most of us have been raised in families that believe that, and most of us have heard people tell us that we make them angry, most of us have told other people that they make us angry, that they hurt our feelings, that they make us feel anger, fear, sadness. And yet, what we observe in this work is that that's not how the system works, that's not what's ever made us angry, and that we have the option to learn through this direct observation how the system really works and how to intervene whenever it produces something in us that we don't prefer. There are a number of people who do work like this, who are trying to get people to understand the deeper truths of how we create and experience our lives. One of those people is Guy Finley, and we've mentioned this on a regular basis. I just think that perhaps at times I don't mention it as often as I should, that if you want to tap into a lot of free work from Guy Finley, you can go to guyfinley.org/channel, CHANNEL. And bless his heart, ever since the coronavirus restrictions kicked in back in early 2020, he has been offering far more work absolutely free. Now, he's never really gouged anybody as far as I'm concerned. He's often offered his CD and DVD sets at really reasonable prices. And yet, when the coronavirus restrictions kicked in, he started offering 3 talks every week. And 2 of them he does, and the third one would be his students. But it's Wednesday evening, Sunday morning, and then Friday evening. So if you want to tap into that expansive library of absolutely free material, just go to guyfinley.org/channel, CHANNEL. And it's kind of top of mind for me because I'm planning a trip to go visit him in June. He's going to have his final talks in the Pines before moving to Florida, and somehow or another taking more of his work to a global level. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but that's what they've been announcing. So, if you have comments or questions, we're here to answer them. If you have any interest in checking out the same kinds of deep wisdoms and observations that we try to make here and that Dr. Michael Ryce shares in his work, you can get lots of good free second or third level opinions about this from Guy Finley at guyfinley.org/channel. And loads of good free stuff there if you're interested. So we have plenty of time for comments or questions. The last time we were on air was on Friday, and I was doing some reading with commentary from the book Walk in the Physical, A Walk in the Physical by Christian Sundberg. And the work that we're all doing with all of these shows and support groups is very, very similar to what Christian is talking about in his book, and he has a slightly different perspective on it. So that's why I like to do this. I was reminiscing over the weekend about how similar the message is in A Walk in the Physical. The message specifically about why we might be here or why we might be having a physical experience. And it dawned on me how close that is to what we read from Stephen Davis's book, Butterflies Are Free to Fly, and the idea that just to be here and have the experience is all the meaning that we need in life, that it doesn't have to be some convoluted, logical expanse of hierarchies and either politics or spirituality. It's just enough that we can be in life and have a full, deep, rich experience, and that's enough. So I will ask again if anybody has an idea that they want to have me read from a certain grouping or theme of these essays. There are 166 essays in his book, and we've read from the category of negative emotions as guideposts, and we've read from the category of the present moment as power, and we've read from the category of intellect is not the answer. The answer you're looking for is not to be found in your intellect. And we were most of the way through that series of 10 essays. I think we'd gotten to the 5th or 6th one. And since nobody's raising a hand or typing a comment in the app, I will return to that reading. The next essay I'll read in that, I don't believe I've read this one. It's titled, Beingness is Not in the Intellect. And Christian writes, as we consider spiritual ideas, we are in the intellect. And yet what we are, this idea of beingness, is not an intellectual activity. Though the intellect occurs within beingness, and that is an important distinction to make, the name of the game is love, capital L, O-V-E, love. This is also not an intellectual activity. Love is a state of intention genuinely pointed toward the benefit of another over oneself, which of course is a misnomer because there is no separate self. We are all connected at another level of scale. And so extending your true nature to someone else is extending your true nature to yourself. He writes, love is a state of intention genuinely pointed towards inclusion, acceptance, freedom of being, and unity. Surrender is not primarily an intellectual activity either. Surrender is also an intent. Love and surrender can occur through an intellectual context, but they are not of the intellect. The intellect and all of its knowledge and understanding of one's current experience is but a tool, and it can create a context. The quality of the intent of the individual who is using that tool and operating within that context That quality of intent is the primary force we are here to develop. So he's saying at one level, your capital S self, your soul, your consciousness as a being, which is far more vast than your intellect. It's far more vast than everything you've ever heard, seen, thought, felt, said, and done in your entire life. At one level, that vastness of consciousness is who and what you are. At another level, your thoughts about all of that is what you consider yourself to be. And at that soul level, your entire reason for coming out of the non-physical into the physical is to live into the intent to get better and better at focusing consciously on love and your true nature as love, and extending that in every interaction with everyone and everything. And that's enough to say that's your only reason for being here. That's all the reason anyone would ever need for taking a walk in the physical. And yet, at another level of scale, at this intellectual consciousness, what we call reality level of scale, we seldom choose to focus our conscious awareness on our intention to be more loving. And so bringing ourselves back to that and practicing that can be said to be your primary work here in the physical realm. That's almost exactly what you'll hear if you listen to yesterday's talk from Guy Finley in his Sunday talk, or last Sunday's talk from Guy Finley. Again, those are available absolutely free on the website at guyfinley.org/channel. All you have to do is give them a first and last name and an email, and instantly you'll have access to the talks. So we have different levels of scale. At one level of scale, the soul level of scale, our intention never wavers. At that level of scale, we have the conscious awareness that we are connected to everyone and everything. At the physical level of scale, we're so preoccupied with our looks and our finances and our physical health and our relationships and our job and our sense of being useful in the world, whatever that might be, that we often lose focus in the area of intent or intent to be loving. So one of the things we're encouraged to do, and why we have the internet show and we have the support groups, is to help people with conscious reminders that everything goes better when you're focused consciously on your true nature as love and working to extend that in every interaction with every person and everything. Here Christian continues and he writes, our primary reason for being here is the growth of, quote, what we are, close quotes, toward this concept of love, toward this conscious awareness of our true nature as love. He writes, what survives bodily death, then, is our true self, is our beingness, and that retains its true nature. That true nature is retained forever. Even as form falls away, even as the body drops, the quality of consciousness, which was aware of the form and did something with your form of your body, that quality of consciousness remains. To the soul, the development of that quality of consciousness is well worth the price of being physical for a while, with all of its aches and pains and frustrations. The next essay in this category of essays, titled Answer is Not in the Intellect, is titled Addicted to Form. And Christian writes, being able to be something while not being something else is an exciting and amazing opportunity for the spirit. Why? Because the spirit is that which is all things and sees and understands itself as connected to all things in a way that we can't understand here in the physical realm. And yet, the spiritual realm can't experience what it's like to be in the physical unless it takes physical form. So he writes, quote, all that is, close quotes, everything, all of consciousness, all of physical matter, all of thought, can become even profoundly more when it, through you, when it can experience actually being this and not that. So there's an expansion of the creation by stepping into different levels of experience that you have at the physical level, which cannot be experienced in the non-physical. So he writes, creation gains meaning in the process. Right now, as you experience your own identity and circumstances, you are participating in that very valuable process. As we participate in that process, we end up being deeply mired in the duality, that whole thing about we are this and not that. We become so entrenched in the perception of duality, and we focus on it so much that we become lost in it. And we forget all else. We might even say that in a sense we are currently, quote, addicted, close quotes, to form, to our bodies, to our thoughts, to our beliefs. We are often addicted to thinking, to defining, to quantifying, and to identifying. It is common to be addicted to these things when one is existing in a dualistic reality, such as ours. As such, stark dualism is remarkably alluring, and it's a deeply rich experience. So it's understandable how or why people, you and I and everyone you've ever met, has become infatuated with it, obsessed with it, distracted by it. He writes, however, it is worthwhile to note that while we are here, our larger state of being always transcends all of the world of form. Our awareness itself spans incredible distances of time and space. In fact, all of the distances of time and space are transcended by your awareness, as well as all of this thinking about this versus that, me versus you, up versus down. Your consciousness transcends all of those ideas that exist only here on Earth. You may be completely focused on the form, but in fact, you're fundamentally free. Those statements are not just ideas. They attempt to describe your very actual nature of being, even though you have forgotten it. You can let go of form. You are free enough to do that. You can let go of your judgments. You can let go of your needs. You can even let go of your thoughts themselves and just allow yourself to be exactly with what is just for the moment. You do not need to quantify or qualify anything at all. In fact, you may find that when you finally let go, the peace and joy available to you far surpasses any of the wonders available in beholding this stimulating dream of physicality, of duality, of me versus you that seems to be in front of you right now. So here in this last paragraph, I'm sure that Christian doesn't know about Dr. Michael Ryce's work or the Reality Management Worksheet, but here in this last paragraph, he's basically describing what the Reality Management Worksheet suggests that we do. By letting go of form, he means letting go of all your thoughts, all your beliefs, all your goals, all your this should be judgments, this should be that way, that shouldn't be that way. He writes, you are free enough to let go of form. You are free enough to let go of your judgments. You're free enough to let go of your needs. You can even let go of your thoughts and just tap into what is, what actually is in the moment. Well, to recite from the forgiveness pattern, our forgiveness pattern, it's offered on the mindshiftersacademy.org website under the educational materials page. The forgiveness pattern reads, I cancel my need to be right. I cancel my needs. I cancel my thoughts. I cancel my judgments. I cancel my need for anyone or anything to change, including myself. I put my conscious logical mind and all of its thoughts and beliefs on the shelf for now, and I ask to be shown the truth of life, what actually is, or the hidden part of my mind that blocks me from experiencing life directly as it is. So here in this paragraph, without his even understanding what he's doing, Christian Sundberg is talking about what the Reality Management Worksheet invites us into every time we use it. And what he's saying is, if you let yourself cancel your needs, cancel your thoughts, cancel your judgments, and just allow yourself to be with what is, you may find the peace and joy that's available to you far surpasses any of the wonders that you've been distracted by in the physical world. The next essay in this theme, titled The Answer is Not in the Intellect, is a very short essay. It says, form cannot explain the formless. And he writes, you can't fully explain reality by pointing to forms, including words and ideas in form here. Your body's a form, the chair you're sitting in is a form, the earth you're walking on is a form. All of that is form, but so are your thoughts and ideas and beliefs. And he writes, you can't explain the whole by pointing to any individual part. Since the whole is consciousness, the whole can only be fully identified as it is experienced as consciousness. Whenever one is experiencing form, that is, any kind of differentiation, any kind of separation, one is not experiencing the whole, the total. Take care then when attempting to explain some things by using other things. Anytime you are doing that, you are not fully explaining what he calls in capital letters big truth, or what he calls in all caps all that is. So whenever you're using one thing to try and explain another, you're just talking about parts. You're not talking about the whole the whole of all that is. Form, which includes thoughts and beliefs and words, cannot explain the formless, can't even come close. The next essay in that grouping is titled The Spiritual Message of Empowerment. And Christian writes, the spiritual message is one of empowerment. This is because powerlessness is just a non-fundamental experience, while freedom and power are enduring truths. Spirituality is about moving towards what actually is. This is why Guy Finley says there is nothing more practical than true spirituality. How could that be? Because spirituality is not a bunch of woo-woo, pie-in-the-sky stuff. True spirituality is understanding the actuality of your life, your consciousness, your true nature, and how things work. And the better you get at discerning that, the more practically you have good results for the choices you make in your life. He writes, spirituality is about moving towards what actually is. Since freedom and power are our true inalienable nature, true spirituality naturally moves towards that freedom and power. But because we have fear, we resist our experience in a myriad of ways. We use our ideas and our will to set up many boundaries and to block our own experience. We even use ideas about spirituality to do this. We then seem to lose the powerful truth because we've assigned it to the powerless form. And yet he asks the question, can life itself be repressed? He answers, it can choose to express itself through a great variety of conditions and within a great variety of constraints, and those conditions and constraints can change, and yet life itself is totally free. Spirituality is about that true nature of life, about allowing it, about knowing it, about becoming it. Not just about the nature of these forms or constraints that life expresses through. And again, the forms or constraints he's talking about here is everything physical and words, thoughts, beliefs, etc. He writes, spirit transcends form. Thus, no form can truly convey its breadth and depth. And yet, as life seeks to express itself through its creations, it can strive to reflect this ineffable and inalienable quality through them. Those qualities, among many others, are things that we use words for like ultimate love, joy, peace, power, and freedom. But again, these are just the words. The actual experience of ultimate love or experience of ultimate joy, ultimate peace, ultimate power, ultimate freedom, the actual experience of any of those vastly, instantly transcends all judgments, all words, all thoughts, etc. He goes on and writes, and thus, the spiritual message is about one of ultimate love, joy, peace, power, and freedom. These things cannot be described in words. These things cannot be communicated in words. So the answer is not in the intellect. The last essay in that grouping is titled, The Answers Transcend the Local Intellect. And Christian writes, the local intellect, which deals exclusively with forms like discrete thoughts and ideas, the local intellect cannot understand higher truth. In other words, you cannot find what we call, quote, the big picture, close quotes, type answers by thinking about them, But that doesn't mean you can't find them at all. The answers are there, always available. They're there available as what is real within the powerful reservoir of your being. Not your thinking about your being, not your thinking about what you've done in the past, not your thinking or worrying about what's going to happen in the future, but by being fully present in the conscious moment. You can get access to what they call the big picture answers. He writes, "We believe that thoughts have power because we see the power they have in this local world every day. Through thinking, we establish models by which we understand our environment and we successfully interact with it, sometimes. We've come to believe that the apparently objective, quote, outside, close quotes, world is what is most real. And through thinking, we're able to learn about that world and affect change in it. So we believe that thinking holds the power. Yet in general, we've lost sight of the real, larger context. In focusing so deeply on the physical, we have become so single-sighted that we believe all truth must fit within our physical understandings. That is an erroneous assumption because the, quote, outside, close quotes, physical world is not what is most real. You are real. Your consciousness is real. Your awareness, your being is real. All of that is a part of all awareness and being. And that is what is most real. And that being contains far, far more than this local character of this physical world and the physical world itself. Now, this might seem like absolute pie in the sky, flippity flop, woo woo nonsense. And yet, if you listen to people like Neil deGrasse Tyson as he talks about what is quantum mechanics and quantum physics, and he says no one understands quantum physics. And yet, without quantum physics, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We wouldn't have cell phones, we wouldn't have the internet, we wouldn't have computers. And yet, even the people that work with these things, that create these, that make breakthroughs in them, do not understand how it works. Because at a very real level, it is all popping in and out of existence. It is all just energy, and energy that exists in different formats and time scales than we can comprehend. There is no understanding with our intellectual mind what they call quantum physics and quantum mechanics. Christian goes on and writes, your being is here right now. Your being is the wonderful presence of life itself, that same life which has become, quote, wrapped up, close quotes, within the identity of its local character, and within that character's many thoughts. You, however, are far more than that. The truth of you is far more than that. So if you truly wish to know that, you must be willing to find answers outside of your thoughts. You must be willing to step into experiences that begin by saying, I cancel my need to comprehend this at an intellectual level. I cancel my need to be right about my thoughts. I cancel my need to be right about my beliefs. I cancel my goals for this moment. And I can ask to be shown another way to look at this situation. I can ask to be shown the hidden part of my own mind that's actually creating my upset. And so that's the last essay in the series, or the theme, titled "Answer is Not in the Intellect." Well, if your answer is not in the intellect, where is it? The next category of essays is titled "Truth Beyond Knowledge." And the first essay in that list is titled "The Author of Duality." Christian writes, all the experiences of individual perspective, and in fact all experiences of duality, which means experiences of contrast, anything like up versus down, hot versus cold, etc., good versus bad, my thoughts about this thing versus your thoughts about this thing. All of these exist within the larger reality of consciousness that contains everything. All individual perspectives and all cause and effect events and choices that led to them are all accounted for within that great awareness of consciousness. Absolutely everything is known and accounted for. And yet, great awareness is not simply a sum total of individual perspectives. It is a potent, living consciousness that far exceeds the sum of its parts. From an individualized perspective with a dualistic universe such as ours, we simply cannot grasp what that means. The Creator is the author of duality. And as the author of duality, the Creator is beyond duality. So we cannot define all of the Creator from within that duality, or the thought structures that arise in our minds to try and make sense of that duality, or the existence of a whole system that contains all separation and duality. Stated differently, he writes, it's impossible to describe the source of all being, capital S source, with the dualistic intellect, such as the one you're using right now to make sense of these words. Since form cannot describe the formless, the Creator, the author of form, is beyond description. Fortunately, however, the spirit of which we are primarily composed does exist beyond the duality. It is a part of the creation. Your earthly personality, steeped in the experiences of this duality, may not remember it, because your spirit is irrevocably a part of all creation. You do fundamentally transcend the duality, just like your Creator does. It is okay then, when you wish to let every single thing in your life go, to relinquish your death grip on forms, to relinquish your death grip on responsibilities and ideas, and simply allow yourself to be fully present, exposed, and surrendered to the current moment. The Creator, God, light, love, all that is, the great author, is always there, and you are a part of that. And the message they keep giving us over and over again is, you can't ever be separated from that. You can create the dream of separation. You can have the very real experience of not being a part of it, but you've never been separated from it. The idea that you can sort this out with your words and thoughts is simply a flawed idea. Just like Neil deGrasse Tyson said in that lecture I listened to, you cannot comprehend quantum physics. No one does, because it goes beyond the physical. It's about the energies that pop in and out of existence that give rise to what we call the physical, or give rise to what we experience as the physical. And yet those energies themselves are not physical, and they're not consistent. They pop in and out of existence. The next essay in this category is titled The Ineffable Nature of God, or the Creation. And Christian writes, the wonder of, quote, that which is, close quotes, and all caps, that which is. The wonder of the world, the essence of creation itself, is far beyond any description. The creative power of the Spirit is beyond imagining. The beauty of creation with a capital C is vastly beyond that which can be quantified. The capital L love of God, the love of life itself, the love of creation itself, is more beautiful and desirable and perfect than anything we've ever articulated in any form, anywhere in the universe. That's easy enough to say because all of it transcends form. All of it exists in consciousness, not in form. He writes, all things, including everything we've ever considered or felt or experienced as humans, in the sum of human history, is but an infinitesimal speck in the grandeur that is creation, that is God, that is life itself. The Creator's nature is totally ineffable, undefinable, and sublime. It cannot be anything other than beyond your comprehension as long as you are still in form. Working at turning on the microphone for Susan Bingham. Are you there, Susan Bingham? If you're there and speaking, I cannot hear you.
Oh, hi, Dr. Tim.
There you go.
Oh, good. I heard a dinging sound, but I didn't hear your voice. Well, this dovetails right into something I have just read in a whole other tradition. Since my daughter went to India on a pilgrimage sort of thing, Tim and I have gone back to the beginnings of our relationship with each other, because in that time we studied ancient Hindu scriptures called the Vedas. They call it the Vedanta, the study of the Vedas. And from there we've gotten a hold of some old books that we had, one that was in Tim's library for a long time. And Sri Ramakrishna was considered an incarnation of God in that tradition, and he had a wife. They call it a consort because it wasn't a regular householder type of a marriage. It was a marriage of two people who were really beyond physical relating particularly. She took care of him, cooked for him, studied with him, was married to him when she was only 5. In the Indian tradition, you take a wife when you think it's the right thing to do, and if the wife is very young, you just have her stay home with her parents until she's of age, and then you take her home to your house. Well, this woman became the equivalent of Sri Ramakrishna, according to Ramakrishna, and her. And without any ego, she would say, if you worship me or you worship Ramakrishna, it's the same. You're really worshiping God. But she said, in this age, having an intellectual understanding of God, or even being able to control your thoughts and your mind, which is more to the point she was making, is impossible. We're in an age where we are so overstimulated that to ask the mind to settle down and ask the mind to be able to turn off its own thoughts, for instance, or have only good thoughts, is impossible. Don't expect that of yourself. And I've taken that to heart as meaning that if I cannot sit still and meditate and either control how many thoughts I get or the types of thoughts I get, or more to the point, can I control whether I think or not? Can I become empty? No, I don't do that very well unless I'm very busy on something else, which just means a different focus. She said, don't worry about that. The kind of worship for this age is devotion. It's from the heart. And that's just what you're talking about. And that we can't understand anyway. Not that they ever could, I don't think. But somehow the mind was more conducive to being able to meditate, calm down, or stop, quote, bad thoughts, unquote, than we can do now. I just think it's interesting that what Stephen Sundberg, Christian Sundberg, is getting back to is the same thing as we cannot understand this. We shouldn't even try. And we can only be in awe, basically, right? And be
Yes.
in the presence.
Yes. You can't understand it at the intellectual level. You can't understand it at a level where you would be able to speak it to somebody else. And yet it's always available for your direct experience.
Yeah.
That's the point. The point of this is, can you be gentle with yourself when you have a thought that you should be different than you are, and you can't make that happen? Can you be gentle with yourself and focus on your true loving nature and extend that to others rather than beat yourself up? Because there is no possibility for talking about it, sharing it with somebody else, except energetically. I mean, if you're able to tap into a deep experience of your connection with all of life and all of awareness, go ahead, tap into it. That's going to benefit you and everybody around you. If you say, I've got to find a way to talk to people about this so they understand it, now you've set yourself up for failure. Because this consciousness, this experience of life in the moment, instantaneously goes beyond all form. And again, by form we mean thought, belief, words, all of it. So you can't communicate this in words, in form, because it is part of the formless.
You also said that we cannot understand the meaning of quantum. And is that Stephen talking, or is that you talking?
No,
Christian.
that was a short talk by Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh, okay.
Right? One of our most popular scientists in all of the media that I've run across, because he has a talent for expressing these complex scientific learnings in common terms.
And yet he's saying that we can't.
He says you can't comprehend the quantum because the quantum is the non-physical. He's saying basically the same thing as what this teaching is saying. All we know about is physical. And when I clap my hands together and they make a sound, and I look down at the end of my arm and my hand is there where it's supposed to be, and it's reliably there. But when you start looking at stuff at the quantum level, it disappears. It isn't what it doesn't stay in one place. It isn't measurable in the same way that the physical is measurable. It isn't consistently there and acting the same way. So in that way, you're not going to be able to find words for it.
Right. I know that. Are you still there, Dr. Tim?
Yes.
Okay. I know that Michael talks about quantum still point and still point breathing was hard enough for me to do or understand in itself, and then the adding of the quantum, I thought it sounded great. It must be really fantastic, but I still can't get a hold of it.
Well, but again, the idea there is that it goes beyond words.
Yeah.
Right? It's another level. That's what Michael, as far as I can tell, what Michael's referring to is he's just taking what he found was a very useful tool in the still point breathing, and this just takes it to another level. Because he is working on, as you're doing the still point breathing, my best, guess at understanding this is that he helps people realign their physical body, which he talks about as the antenna. And so from that realignment of the physical body, the best he can do, it takes that very useful tool of what he calls still point breathing to a much deeper level.
Yeah. Well, I'm very sorry that I don't /can't /won't use that. It sounds like a wonderful thing to do, and Tim and I both just were not able to use it. And it's been a point of sort of mild anguish because it's not one of the tools that we can use. Tim falls asleep, and I'm just worried about being able to swallow. I mean, it's just crazy.
And so, it's not a point of anguish, but you could use it to generate anguish, right?
Yeah.
But that's right now. What you're saying is this is the core of this work, to recognize the idea that you can't do still point breathing or quantum still point is not causing anguish. And yet, if you think you should be doing it and you can't bring yourself to do it, you can generate the tension, the frustration, the upset, the self-blame, whatever you want to call it.
All of the above.
Right?
Yep.
But that's just what you're doing with your thought.
I get it.
And that's why every worksheet says, let me cancel my thoughts and beliefs, cancel everything I think I know, cancel my desire for things to be different, and just be here in the moment, which is exactly what Christian was writing about in one of the last essays.
That is so gorgeous. Jonathan just got home from this long trip, and he said, at one point, Jesus asked, I think it was the blind man, he said, what do you want? Do you want to be well? And Jonathan has said to himself, I want to be well. So what do I have to do now to be well? Because the ground has been set. I'm aligned to be well. I've had a cure, but I'm not used to being cured. I'm afraid I'm going to go into my story again, into my habits. I've got to change my thoughts. It's up to me now. That's the way he's talking, and I think that's a fantastic thing to think.
As long as he's not trying to do it with thought.
I'm sure he is.
Right, as long as he's trying to do it with thought, he's in a trap.
Yeah.
He's going to try and go create something. And the teaching that's fundamental here is he already is that which he wants to become. And you can't become what you already are. You can only slow down into being and recognize your truth is you are the consciousness. You are the expression of the creative energy and form. You are love itself, and you aren't damaged and broken. It's all of your thoughts, beliefs, and goals, right, that you're attached to that keep you from experiencing yourself as that loving nature. So I realize that we've extended our time, so thank you so much for the call.
Thanks for answering it.
I will turn off your microphone, remind us all that we come from love. We're made of the stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is free. Stick around for Michael and Jeanie show, which should start again momentarily.